threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
Yeah, man. I'm feeling vigorous. I feel like I'm going to live a long time.
You got your genetics tweaked from last
That's
week?
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now we're feeling like we're going to make it
a long
for
time.
a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this one's a little weird.
It's not weird.
I think it's weird.
Okay.
Because I don't know what to expect from this.
Sure.
And again, just mentioning, like, these are concepts that we want you guys to think about, and that's why we're talking about possibilities in the future. Some are extreme, things are happening, some of this is going to happen, so you have to be thinking ahead, and that's why we're doing it. So today we're going to talk about advances in longevity science, anti-aging medicine, genetic enhancements that could extend life beyond 100 years, even 150 years, so they say. I don't know.
It's not out of the question.
So it's, take it as you may. Doesn't mean we necessarily, I don't know if I believe in this very much, but I think it's possible.
I'm like 60-40 thinking we're headed this direction. I've listened to enough that it's hard not to be on board with some of this.
Yeah. So if people start living much longer, like, how does it affect society? And it most definitely will. Survival, prepping, personal preparedness, all of that will change. So in the rise of longevity tech, it's impact on population economics and survival, what preppers need to do to adapt. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Gonna be interesting.
If we live long time, what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? I got to tell you about BattleBox, guys. It is the monthly subscription box full of solid gear for adventure seekers, survivalists, outdoor enthusiasts, and casual preppers. Each month, BattleBox sends you the coolest selection of hand-picked outdoor survival and everyday carry gear, all valued at far more than what you'd normally pay. You never know what's in the next box, but here's a sampling of what users received this month. The DEFCON 5 backpack, the Yuko Stormproof matches. Great stuff there. All this badassness starts at just $34.99 per month. They've shipped over 1 million boxes and won Best Subscription Box of 2020. Our listeners get 15% off when you sign up at battlebox.com/casualpreppers. Get your first BattleBox and 15% off at battlebox.com/casualpreppers.
Always going to be prepared.
Always.
BattleBox.
Always. So
pretty much all my preparedness is
everything
from BattleBox.
Yeah. Thanks, BattleBox. So let's talk about the science of longevity. How close are we? What is longevity science? What are we even talking about here? Well, when we talk about longevity, we're not just talking about, like, my grandma lived to 100. Like, we're really talking about extending, like, health span. So it's not just, like, barely hanging on till you're 100, right? Just
That's
like,
true. What a nightmare.
Yeah, that sounds
I've lived to
horrible.
130. I've been in a wheelchair since 80.
Yeah, it's like been a good 50 years. Can't even talk, can't see, can't hear. Helen Keller getting
Care
pushed around.
centers are all completely filled up.
Yeah, but we're talking about staying physically and mentally sharp for much, much longer. And in some circles, they're not just trying to slow aging; they're actually trying to reverse it.
Yeah.
So, which means, means a lot of weird things.
So no gray hair at Turdy.
Yeah, Turdy is all we are. I've done gray hair.
It's like I got gray hair super early in life. It's like, no, we're talking about, like, all of that being delayed, right?
Exactly. But there's also, like, a difference between longevity and immortality.
Yes.
You know, we're not saying you're going to live forever.
Yeah.
That's pretty much sci-fi. For now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Upload your brain. I don't know.
I know. That's one of those things. But there's a lot of stuff that's happening in science today that's starting to blur the line between longevity and immortality. Like, it's starting to get blurry a little bit. And last week we talked about gene editing, tools like CRISPR, new work in epigenetics and helping scientists repair damaged DNA and possibly
It's
turn
going to
back.
have to kind of go together.
It's going to have to, right?
Because I don't want to age, like you said.
No.
And be, like,
I just don't want to stay
decrepit
alive
at 70 and live till I'm 140.
Exactly. And there's a thing called senolytics, I think is how you say it. There's a bunch of drugs that are basically designed to find and destroy these senescent cells, like zombie cells.
Yeah, did you know you had zombie cells in you?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And those are bad cells. You don't want those in your body. Those are like the things that, like, cause cancer and all that kind of stuff. And there's these drugs that are help clearing them out and repair itself more efficiently and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. There's regenerative medicine, like stem cell therapies and lab-grown organs. We talked about that last week as well. Those are big. Here's where I think one of the biggest jumps is going to be AI and AI-designed drugs. Because AI is already being used to speed up the discovery of personalized anti-aging treatments, but it's not just about aging. AI could really help us cure a range of diseases much faster than we ever have. Like they can model how genes and proteins and drugs interact at a level humans could never process on our own, or that would take hundreds of years to process on our own.
Case studies and meta-analyses and
AI
stuff.
is going to really speed up all of those processes. So we're just going to start curing diseases.
This is a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
For the most part.
For the most part. Reprogramming cells. This is interesting. Scientists are experimenting with turning back the age of our cells by using something called the Yamanaka factor. Yamanaka, a group of genes that can reset cells to a more youthful state. In animal studies, it's been shown to reverse age-related damage in tissues. So it's already got some studies that are working. So this is something people think in humans, it's really going to help. So we're not really chasing myths here anymore. This is a real
that's a thing, man. It's
science.
Like, once they become damaged and you start copying those damages over and start replicating, then you've got cancers and things like that.
Exactly.
So keep it youthful.
Here's a concept that I think is so fascinating. Longevity escape velocity. It gets real wild here when you start to look at what it means. So longevity escape velocity is the idea that if science can extend your life faster than you're aging, you might actually be able to outrun death indefinitely. So
that's weird.
It gets very, very weird. So in other words, like by the time you're 80, maybe science has added 20 more years to people's lives just with, in the ways that they do that through health.
And then it just gets faster.
Then in those 20 years, you get to be 100. And now they've added another 30 because in those 20 years, they've gotten so much better at all of these things. So now you're going to be 130. Now when you get to 130, they've added another 20 years.
Yeah.
So now you're 150.
So it's like medieval, it's like people live to like 50s.
Yes.
And it took us this long. Now we're getting to the point
like
of like
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
And you could see that, but it's like squish it into a tighter time frame.
And that's why that's the thing that makes me think that this is somewhat plausible is AI. Because you see what it can do and you see how fast and how
it can create
rapid
things and analyze them and run them through simulations. Yeah.
And we talked about the singularity, and that all kind of could be part of this, right? Futurist Ray Kurzweil, he predicts we could hit that point within the next 15 to 20 years. There's
a lot.
His
in the
number
next
is
20 overall.
Yeah.
Like of all these things.
Yeah, like he's old. He's like in his 80s, but he's like, I don't know if I'm going to die. I think I'm going to live long enough, is what he said.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anyways, crazy. I mean, obviously, that could be true. It could not be true, but it's just an interesting thing to think about longevity escape velocity. And that's not like 100 years out. That's like in the next 15 to 20 years.
Crazy.
This is in our lifetime. So you don't have to believe that that's a realistic timeline, but the idea kind of forces us to rethink what it means for preparedness for all of us, right? Because this changes that question from, well, how do I just survive?
It's not like it's never been a goal, though.
No.
Like, we're all trying to get to
we all want to live longer.
Live healthier longer.
Yeah.
That's all. Now we're having some assistance with better science.
Exactly. So, like, it's not, for preppers now, it's not like, how do I survive the next hurricane or whatever it is? It's like, how do I survive the next 150 years? And how do you
even think ahead of like that?
Mentally, physically, financially,
yeah.
As well as all of the disasters in between in those 150 years. So if humans do start living way past 100, it brings a whole new kind of challenge, and not one you could just solve by buying more long-term food storage.
No.
Like there's other things you need
Those
to
only
do.
have 25-year shelf life.
Yeah, you have to, other things you need to consider.
Yeah.
And that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, you have to consider it because it's things that science is looking at and working on. And so, but yeah, how a longer life how a longer life changes survival in society is what I wanted to talk about. Like, so the workforce and the retirement crisis, the end of retirement as we know it. Like, if you're living longer and you're not losing health, then like when is retirement?
You just keep working.
Do you retire?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people are regularly living to 120, 150 due to these enhancement or these medical breakthroughs, Can retirement systems designed for 80-year lifespan possibly cope with it? They'll collapse. They can't do it. Governments would almost certainly be forced to drastically raise retirement ages. Working into your late 70s or 80s might become the new norm. Like your 65 retirement goal is now 95 or 100. Or even older. Could we see multiple career changes over a single lifetime? So maybe you work one job for 40 years, retire for a decade, and then you come back to work for another 50 years.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of cool.
It's interesting.
And it's like changes your midlife crisis to when you're 70.
Yeah, you have that at 70.
So we'll become like many of the athletes, you know. They retired and then they come back and then they retire and then they come back. So we can go along with that.
Then they're calling games and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the studio.
They never stop.
Yeah.
And does the concept of retirement even exist anymore? Are we moving towards a state of near permanent engagement in the workforce?
Yeah.
Changing roles rather than stopping entirely. You know, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Becoming an announcer.
That's
you
right.
need to play different sports. But unless, of course, AI and automation truly handle everything, then
we don't know.
It kind of changes things too. But peak population and resource wars, if people stop dying at a traditional rate, population growth could explode.
That's where it gets nuts.
That gets concerning.
Yeah.
I was reading too about like what they figure right now, and these are all estimates of like what Earth can manage, like how many people, and it says 10 billion is where it really becomes tricky. And we're not too far off. And
here's the thing, though, because there's two competing things happening here. There's the longevity piece that we're talking about, where we hope that people are starting to live longer. But there's also like a population collapse happening at the same time. We're not having enough babies to replenish the people that we have.
True.
So I don't know if that's just gonna even itself out.
True, that's happening, huh?
Yeah.
You would think not when you go places.
You
You're
would
like,
think so.
This population is getting out of control.
Yeah.
But you can see if you look at a curve, like
the curve is starting to go the other way.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe this starts to keep it level. I don't know.
I don't know how that all balances out.
Interesting to think about.
A massive population of long-lived individuals would put unprecedented strain on resources. And that's not, just like food alone. That's water and energy, housing, all of it. Like, how do we share limited resources across so many generations across the globe? This isn't just one population. And does this trigger new conflicts? So picture just RVs everywhere and camping spots everywhere all the time. Crowded national parks at a new level. Like, you want to go see Zion's National Park? Get in line. It's going to take you 15 years
You
to
can't
get in
do
there.
it now.
Yeah. No.
Have you been to Zion's?
Yeah.
That place is ridiculous.
And if you're having people retire early because they can just restart their career later, like, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
What about other countries imposing, strict lottery-like systems to be able to visit, or just stopping visitors altogether? It's like we have too many. You're never going to visit.
You're
Italy.
not coming here.
That's a possibility.
Put on your VR
They're already
headsets.
like in a way, some countries are considering shutting off like this being done with. It brings a lot of money in, but they get to a point where like it's just a mess. So get rid of it. And do mega cities become the only viable way to house billions? Skyscrapers everywhere. Like, it's the only way you can put that many people in an area with work and internet.
Yeah, you just can't keep spreading out with single family homes because you start to run out. I mean, we do have a lot of land available.
We do have
there's
a
more than
ton
you
of
think.
land.
There's
Yeah.
more than you think.
And I think the earth can sustain way more than we believe. Like, it's amazing what it can do.
Yeah.
And I believe that. But to consolidate for other purposes, like, it's going to happen. And could the sheer pressure of population and resource depletion finally force humanity to seriously pursue space colonization? Maybe it's time, like, that they're like, it has to happen, or we're not going to be able to sustain anything here. And that's kind of cool.
That is cool. Yeah,
That's like not only exploration, which I think would be amazing for space, but it's like, now we're going to start. Like, you could retire on Mars.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be awesome.
Or even just in some sort of
I'm going to live there for 10 years.
Yeah, a space station, you know.
That'd be
like
pretty
in,
cool.
Inception, or not Inception, Interstellar.
Yeah. So I'm like, that stuff's actually kind of cool.
That is cool. It's very cool.
Now, if natural death from diseases becomes rare, what happens to human psychology?
I know.
This is really tricky to predict because, like, some people, weirdly enough, look forward to death.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, things didn't work out in life and they're stressed and they've lost loved ones and they're like, I'm looking forward to being done.
Yeah.
It's hard to say when, like, health is better and they're living longer, and maybe medicines are more efficient at treating psychological problems, because it really isn't great now, I'll be honest with you.
It's horrible.
But it's like if we can eliminate that, even better. But it's like you still look at like different things like unfortunate like living situations and things like that. Like it becomes a new type of psychological problem.
Yep, absolutely.
Could violence, accidents, or deliberate acts like war and murder become the primary cause of death because you don't die by natural causes?
Yeah, it sounds like a weird science fiction movie.
It does sound like a weird science fiction
or a book.
And then I always think of like people calling you, it's like, you're a natural. Like you haven't
I know.
like done any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, like you become like this weird citizen. And for preppers specifically, does this focus the shift and how? Like is survival still about preparing for short-term disasters and societal collapse, or does it become about the long-term, like long-term gain?
Yeah.
Maintaining one's biological longevity, securing access to treatments, that provide it food access for decades and potentially centuries. Very different.
It's so crazy.
So it's hard to really
consider.
But that's why we wanted to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I know it does sound really sci-fi, but it's like we're heading into these like parts of, I don't even know how to explain the future, but it's possible that living beyond 100 in a healthy state will complicate things. And we have to think about that.
Absolutely. You also need to think about electrolyte deficiency, Cameron, because it can cause headaches, cramps, fatigue, and weakness. And as people want to be prepared and ready for anything, the last thing you need is something that will slow you down when you need to be ready the most. That's why we at Casual Preppers have teamed up with Element. It is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing that you don't. We think Element is perfect for bug-out bags and EDC kits because it contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. Casual Preppers listeners can get a free Element sample pack when you make any purchase through our exclusive Casual Preppers link. That is one packet of every flavor every time you order through our link. That's very important. You got to go through the link or you're not going to get this thing. So go to drinklmnt.com/casual preppers. I literally can't go on a hike. I can't ruck. I can't do anything without my Element. It's just like habit now.
I feel like I use it most when I'm sick.
Yeah, when
like,
you're sick, yeah.
It's
great
perfect
for rehydration. It's great. Drinkelement.com/casual preppers. So let's talk about what preppers can do to prepare for a longer life. Like if we're really heading into a future where living to 120 or 150 becomes like a normal thing, you have to start thinking beyond bug out plans and food storage because it's about adapting your financial, your physical, and your mental strategies to hold up over 150 years. Like that is a really long time. And to be coherent and healthy, you obviously, if you're going to live that long, you want to be as coherent and healthy as you can along that. So financial survival in the age of longevity, because your 401k is not going to cut it if you're living to 150.
Yeah.
Mine's not going to cut it if I'm living to 80.
I know.
So
yeah,
retirement planning as we know it won't work.
You thought it was stressful for retirement.
Yeah.
Now you really are going to be stressed.
It's like if you think you're going to retire at 65 and then have it last 85 more years, that's not going to happen. There's just no way. Social Security, pensions, just you can't count on them anymore because most of those systems were built when people died in their 70s or even their 60s. And if we start pushing 130 or 150, the math doesn't work on those things. Maybe the government comes up with some sort of a system that works, but I would not hang your hat on that. That's probably not going to be what happens. So what should preppers be thinking about here? You need to start figuring out how to build generational wealth. Sounds super easy, right? But you need to think about things like long-term assets, real estate, land, gold, long horizon investments, those things that can pay off big over time and keep and build value over time.
Stuff you should be thinking about now. Anyway.
You should be thinking about it, but it's even more important if you're living to 150.
Yeah.
And then multiple streams of income, obviously, if you're going to retire at 65, you want multiple streams as you get going, things that are paying dividends, rental properties, all that kind of stuff that you can consider. And you don't want to work forever. Who wants to work 150 years? I do not. Sometimes it feels like from Monday to Thursday is 150 years. But if you want options later in life, start building that financial independence as early as you can, which means this stuff we talk about all the time, less debt, smarter spending, learning how to let your money work for you. And that's the thing. You're going to have time to let it work.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't have enough life for this money to work
That's true.
enough for me. But
now, essentially, you could be in your 20s or teens.
Exactly. So that's something you need to consider. It's not about retirement. It's really about in a world where retirement may not even exist.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. So then we talk about the physical and medical preparedness for longevity. Living longer really is only going to matter if you can stay healthy enough to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I assume in this whole equation that's going to be a part of it. Like, I don't want to be hanging on by a thread if it is.
Medicine's keeping you alive.
Yeah.
Life support for 45 years.
Yeah, no thank you. So longevity isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years, Cameron.
That sounds better.
You liked that, right?
I like that better.
And preppers know the value of staying capable, obviously. So here's what that might look like. Strength and mobility are going to be so important. All this stuff is just stuff that we talk about anyways. So that's why I think these are relevant things to discuss. Keep training, walking, lifting, stretching, running, whatever it is. Stay mobile. Staying mobile keeps your body younger, longer. And really, it does. It might hurt sometimes, but it really is good for your body. Diet, fasting, cold and heat exposure. A lot of preppers, a lot of people are already experimenting with, intermittent fasting, cold exposure, sauna, low inflammation diets. These are all things that are backed by science and research that are really good for your body for aging. Keep doing them or start doing them. One of the two, right? And then also know what's happening in the science of longevity. I know you think that that's a hard thing to do, but it's really not, because there's some influencers out there that you can start following that are going to give you all of this information pretty frequently. People like Peter Attia. I don't know if have you ever heard of Peter Attia?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's great. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, obviously Andrew Huberman. All these people are talking about longevity very frequently. And so this is kind of where you can wet your whistle on some of that stuff and kind of understand.
Just listen to some of it.
Yeah, right. And then the mental and psychological survival over 150-year lifespan is going to be pretty hard. One of the biggest, physical is going to be hard for 150 years, but I think mentally, we don't know what it's going to be like to live to 150. It's going to be tough, right? Because if you think about it, like if you live long enough and you don't have some accident that happens to you, you could live longer than your kids, your grandkids.
Yeah.
Like that's like mentally will funk you up. You know what I mean? Like it could be really hard. You could be isolated. So you have to understand what that might look like. And building some mental resilience is going to matter as much as building physical strength. Keep learning, developing new skills, finding new purposes through life. Find things you enjoy doing. Obviously, very important. A strong mind can keep you grounded, even as everything around you is changing a lot. And then some people have brought up the memory issue here, which I thought is very interesting.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah. When you were mentioning this, when I was reading the notes, I was like, that is interesting.
A lot of people talk about...
I feel like I'm maxed out.
I know. Memory overload as people age, Will we reach a point where we need to erase or edit memories just to stay mentally healthy over 100+ years?
There's a lot of stuff I'd like to edit out.
I know, me too, man. But we don't know. We don't know what our brains are capable of over that time.
Mm-hmm.
We might just be getting full hard drives. It's like in the red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And what is that going to do for us? Do we need memory implants? Yeah, we need to defrag and we need to get rid of some old files. So anyways, that's interesting.
That's a lot to gather that lifespan and memories and experiences. It's like, am I going to forget all the way up to the 50s I did when I was, a little kid up to 12 years old?
Exactly.
I don't remember any of that.
We don't know. Something to consider, though. Anyways, a lot of weird stuff to consider over that long of a time.
Yeah, that's a long time. So, considering some of the best case scenarios and worst case scenarios with this longevity, no more awful diseases. Picture a world with the big killers, cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's. They have to be cured. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this possibility of longevity. Right. So that's a huge deal. And I would love to eliminate that kind of crap.
Yep.
Aging becomes less about decline and more about just continuing on, exploring, really living life to its fullest without the burdens of health problems.
Yeah, just don't get in a car wreck.
Yeah.
Don't.
Drive safe. If the car's probably driving for you.
Yeah, they're probably driving for us at that point. Anyways.
But it's accidents are the only way to die. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
No more fretting about these issues and genetic issues and being wheelchair bound and have severe musculoskeletal issues, ALS and Parkinson's and all that stuff, it's gone.
Yeah.
It would make you way less stressed. So living longer would be much more pleasant.
Yeah.
And your biggest health worry, just like I was saying, might just be accidents or getting murdered.
Yeah.
Still murder out there.
Still, yeah, that's hard to get rid of that.
And if people aren't just living longer but staying sharp and healthy, society gets a massive brain gain.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
think about all of the scientists and things that have been learned and just keeps growing on each other.
That's the
or
thing.
on
Like a
itself.
lot of these really smart scientists, they get old, they die.
Yeah.
And
they
then a
do.
lot of that stuff dies with them. But
Yep.
if they're living twice as long, they're getting twice
Like
as
if
smart.
Einstein had
Yeah.
lived another 40 years,
What would he have done?
or how long was he, 70?
I don't know. He was pretty old, but
But it's like
still.
70, 80 years, another like double that. Man, we'd have all kinds of atomic
Who
bombs.
knows? Yeah.
But yeah, just amazing minds to live longer and stuff like that. And like space colonization would need to happen. And I think that's pretty exciting. It's like, let's expand, like we're building on technology and being able to explore space. Like it makes life more exciting anyway.
Yeah.
So there's good stuff that comes from it. What's the worst case scenario? You've got this like huge divide. We talked about this before, and it's a scary thought. What is it? Apartheid? The biological apartheid is like a horrible thought. I always say, like that word looks so much different than it is.
Yeah.
To me anyway. But that's a horrible thought. There really are treatments that grant radical longevity, but maybe you can't afford them.
Yeah.
It's not it's not an ability that you can ever have. So then you get this massive divide. The ultra rich that are already super attractive and have all these biological enhancements, they're the only ones that live on. And that sucks. Wealthy elite become a practically immortal, genetically optimized class, while the rest of humanity still lives and dies on the old timeline.
Yeah.
That's a possibility with
Definitely.
this.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary. It's like, well, that's great. The buttholes just live on forever. Not all of them. And then the forever workforce, if nobody retires because they're living forever and staying healthy, where do the other generations fit in? Like, where do you fit into the workplace? Career progression could grind to a halt.
Yeah, because like people aren't vacating these jobs where
No.
the younger people can come in.
And so, yeah, your administration and all that never goes away. You always work under them. You never can be promoted. You're not, you have to wait 100 years for your boss to retire.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine that? And what kind of new, this is the thing that is concerning to me, is I think of people like my parents, love my parents, but if they were in charge for 100 years, working with their mindset of what they've experienced in the past, and like there's nothing new going forward. We're not getting new creative minds into the workforce.
Yep.
So things just like in a standstill. We're living in old, we're not progressing. And that's a possibility too. We wouldn't see very many innovations or creativity because we're stuck with the same people that won't quit and they won't retire because they never retire. And then funding is obviously a big stress that you would have to worry about. And the amount of massive amounts of people that study and practice medicine, like we lose our jobs. Like think about how many people are in the medical field in any way, like dentistry and all that. Like,
of course you had to bring up dentists.
I did. Would all these enhancements lead to not really needing any medical teams? Like that's a huge market.
I think you'd still have emergency care, obviously.
You'd have
urgent
to
care.
for like traumas and stuff like that, but it would be very different.
Yeah, like oncologists are probably gone.
I know,
you
it's
know,
weird. It would
Cardiologists.
change.
Yeah,
It would reshape medicine forever.
for sure.
But new diseases may pop up and
For sure,
and different things. But I can only imagine seeing somebody on my schedule that's 165. I'm like, geez, and I'm 165.
Yeah.
But cleaning ears on one of those, it just changes everything. You just never know. It's hard to know what to expect there.
Yeah.
But and then if natural death from old age is off the table, like how do people die? Like if it's not like accidents and stuff like that, do you voluntarily leave life by euthanasia? Like you're like, I'm done. I'm going to be, going a pod out in the forest.
That might be a thing.
That might be a
becomes
huge thing.
More
the
relevant.
concept of mortality, because no matter at what point this could start happening, you probably lost your part of your family, your parents,
for
your
sure.
grandparents. You'll never see them again until you know, take care of yourself and take off yourself. The concept of mortality fundamentally changes, and maybe not for the better. This would create like a whole different type of psychological problems. It's like, you're living forever, but you're missing a piece of your life. Like there's still going to be depression and sadness, and it's like, is it going to be treatable? Is it? It's just hard to say. And envy lives on. Like those are other things. It's like you're seeing people progress in life forever.
Yeah,
not forever, but for hundreds of years or multiple years. It's like I'm not progressing at that rate. Dude, now this sucks.
That person on
a long time.
Instagram is like, their life looks so amazing, and it's even getting better and better and better. Yeah.
So it's just a weird thing to think about, and
it really is.
And to consider like the problems that it could cause and the good things that it could have.
For sure.
But today's podcast is brought to you by TacPack. This is a good thing, okay?
Yes.
No matter how old you are. The only tactical subscription box with useful, professional-grade stuff inside. Use code Casual Preppers and get a free $70 machine-made part from Next Level Armament.
Booyah.
Free stuff, man.
Yeah, free stuff is great.
Go get it.
I like all the free stuff.
TacPack's been with us for ages.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole concept of longevity is just crazy to consider. Like the overpopulation thing, like how do you prepare for something like that? Like how do you survive like those mega cities in a disaster? Can you imagine if you lived in it, like even right now, imagine living in like Shanghai or Tokyo in a freaking natural disaster. How many people live in those cities? It's like, it looks sci-fi when you see pictures or videos of them.
True.
And imagine if those cities are all over, because of this longevity issue. Boy, that sure does change urban prepping. It's like mega city prepping, You're living in a high rise that's like 60, 70, 100 levels up or whatever,
This is crazy to think.
It's so crazy to consider.
And I do think like age is going to increase and we're going to live longer.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so it's just really hard to like making like choices you make now matter. That's probably the biggest thing to take away from this. It's like you have to consider, okay, if something changes and I do add another 20 years to my life, just that's a huge deal.
It makes me sick thinking about retirement and like trying to figure that out. Oh, it's hard to figure out. But again, key takeaways.
Maybe be a Burger King manager forever.
Maybe. I don't know. With like your lab grown Whoppers,
Exactly.
But key takeaways from today. Look, longevity science really could extend human life beyond 150 years. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you need to think about it. So your prepping must shift to include things like financial survival over the long term health and mental resilience. And survival isn't going to be just about avoiding death. It's going to be about managing extreme lifespans. Yeah. And that's just a crazy thing to think about.
That is a really crazy thing to think about.
So like the listener challenge on this one is like having a longevity survival plan. If you live to 150, how would you prepare differently?
Yeah.
Like what would you invest in today to sustain yourself long term? How would you change your diet, your fitness, your health strategy? And how would you stay mentally engaged and motivated for another 100 freaking years?
Yeah.
Think about it.
I know.
Like,
I think
just consider it.
I think it's a good challenge.
Consider it.
Because some people are like, and what we've talked about, it's like, what you do now, like, matters. Like, staying healthy because you could extend your life longer. Like, don't avoid those diseases now for some awesome stuff in the future.
And here's the thing, like, say all this longevity stuff is bunk. None of it happens. And any of the things we talked about doing for preparedness on this thing is going to be great for you either way.
It is.
It's not going to be bad for you.
You're already doing some investments. You're already doing some, like, good exercise habits.
It can only help.
What's it going to hurt?
It's not going to hurt nothing. Yeah. Nothing. Nowhere, nothing.
You hurt my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening. We got a couple episodes left, 2 more to be exact, in the Future of Survival series. And then we have another series coming up, which we're really excited about. Should we tease it?
I think so. I'm super excited about it.
It's going to be called The Collapse Chronicles. So take that as you will. That's your little tease. It's going to be fun. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you check out our other podcast. This podcast is a secret. Go follow us on all the socials and stay survived.